I'm Heather Rose.
And I'm Danielle Wood.
And together we are
Angelica Banks.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about what it's like to write together as Angelica Banks.
It really all started on Hobart's Mount Wellington. One day when Heather came up to visit me at my house, and I said to her, I think we should write a book together. And I had an idea for a character called Tuesday McGillycuddy, but that was really about all I know. So Heather said,
oh, that's funny. I think her mother's called Serendipity Smith, and she's the most famous writer in the world.
And I said she has a dog, and that dog's name is Baxter.
And I said it's Baxter with a double R, although I don't know why yet.
And that's really where it started. And I think we thought that if we worked together, we might get a book done more quickly. But did that happen?
No. It doesn't take any less time to write a book together, but it's much more fun. So one of us will be reading to the other, and then we'll say, oh, that's a really good bit. That was fantastic. And the other one will say, yeah,
no,
you wrote that.
Which
is really funny.
And part of how we wrote the first book, Finding Serendipity, was using Google Docs, and because sometimes we were in different parts of the world, this led to a very particular kind of magic. There was one time where I'd been working on the book all day, and I got to the end of my writing day, and I just left a message in the text that said, Heather, I have no idea what happens next. And I went to bed. But of course Heather at this time was in New York, and so she got up in her morning and found my message. So then when I woke up the next morning, there was the next chapter, and the problem of what happened next in the book was mysteriously solved, a bit like the shoemaker and the elves.
And I had a very similar situation where I was in the Blue Mountains and I'd been working all day, and I felt like I'd left a kind of blackberry bush behind me full of nasty little sharp bits that hadn't got smoothed out. And I left Danielle a note at the end of the chapter going, I'm so sorry, I know it's a mess, but I'll come back to it. And when I woke up in the morning, Danielle had worked deep into the night and edited the whole chapter, and there was this beautiful, smooth chapter that was exactly what I hoped it might be. But I must say that is one of the best things about working together, is that we have very different skills, but we've also both spent an enormous amount of time being professional writers. Danielle was a journalist and I was a copywriter. So we have had every kind of editing happen to us over the years. I don't think there's anything anyone could ever say to us that would deeply offend us in terms of feedback, because we've probably had the worst kind of feedback we're ever likely to get.
Probably. And people often ask whether or not we argue, but if ever we had a situation where we saw things differently, we knew that it just meant that we hadn't got it right yet. So we just keep going and keep trying new things until both of us are happy.
One of the processes we went through early on, after Danielle had this fantastic idea about a girl called Tuesday McGillycuddy, and we'd started to conceive the story in its very early stages. We set out on a very long table every children's book that really had touched us in our lives, and there must have been 40 or 50 books, and they had been from our own childhoods and from also being mothers of 6 children between us. And we talked about what we loved about each of those books and why they touched us and what inspired us and the sort of things that we wanted to contribute as authors of children's literature.
An interesting part of this writing process with you has been the things we ate along the way.
And the different cups of tea.
Do you know the most irritating thing about working with Heather is that despite the fact that we have known each other and been very good friends for 14 years, I still cannot guess on any given day how she is going to want her tea.
And I never knew that I had my tea differently every day until I started to hang out with Danielle.
Sometimes she has it black, sometimes she has it white, sometimes she has it strong, sometimes she has it weak, sometimes she has maple syrup in it, sometimes she has condensed milk in it. There's just no way of knowing what's coming next.
Sometimes it's tannin tea, and sometimes it's rui, and sometimes it's chamomile or peppermint. And something that people don't realise about Danielle is her life is peopled by small furry animals.
This is true. Yes, at our place at the moment there are alpacas, bees, chickens, any number of rats, mice, guinea pigs, rabbits, and it makes my life busy and chaotic, but I have to say that when I look around my house and I see all the little furry creatures, it just fills my heart with joy in a very particular way.
So, world exclusive.
The third book in the Tuesday McGillycuddy series is going to be called
Blueberry Pancakes Forever.
There you go. And it's a book that takes us to a whole new kind of emotional territory.
It does. And all of the books are about the emotional territory of being a writer. The first one very much about those beginning feelings that we talked about before, about how do you go from just the beginning of a story all the way to the end. The second book is very much...
Well, it's about being in the middle where you have so many choices, isn't it? So many options.
So many options, that's right. So A Week Without Tuesday is very much about the options that come to you when you're a writer. And the third book is really something else altogether, and something that might surprise some of you, about the heart of the writer. So thank you all of you who've come to visit us on our website. Thank you to all our readers for your emails and messages. It's been fantastic to know how much you're enjoying the Tuesday McGillycuddy series.
And for those of you who are writers as well as keen readers, I hope that Finding Serendipity and A Week Without Tuesday really inspire you to pick up your pen and find your way from the beginning all the way to the end.